Okay, we're starting off with a treat. Okay, I have stumbled upon a new Rambam toy. Okay, and I'm calling it a toy right now as opposed to a tool because right now it's more like for my amusement and entertainment. But I'm sure at one point I will become able to master it and to wield it and use it for real purposes. But today we actually are going to use it for a real purpose. Okay, so let's start off with the halacha that we read last time, but then I'll work on. Okay, so this is halacha yud beis. Okay, Hilchos Torah Perek Gimel halacha yud beis. Amru Chachamim. So the Chachamim said, Bris Krusa, a covenant was sealed or was made. Shekol hayagea b'talmuda, that anyone who exerts himself in his learning, beves hakneses, in shul, lo bimhera hu mishakeach, he will not forget quickly. V'chol hayagea b'talmuda b'tzina machkim, and anyone who exerts himself in his learning b'tzina, in modesty, machkim, he becomes wise. Shneimar, as it says, v'es chachma, with the modest is wisdom. And anyone who makes his voice audible at the time of his learning will persist in his hand. But one who reads silently, then he will forget quickly. Okay, so we're going to analyze it like we usually do. That's the plan. But I want to show you this toy. Okay, so the first line. Okay, so what do we say is weird about that line? That anyone who exerts himself in the base knesses.
The person normally rides with the college.
Oh, sure. Okay, yeah, sure.
Just continue on.
Sure.
Just tell you.
Okay, yeah. Right. So what do we say? Or what do you even remember? What is weird about that phrase? Anyone who is a geba talmud of the beis haknesses.
Why is it Beit Knesset, not like Beit Midrash?
Exactly. Why is it Beit Knesset and not Beit Midrash? Okay, so let's just review an old lesson in the Rambam. Okay, which is when you're learning Rambam, always use good Rambams. Okay, not bad Rambams. So this I have in my hand is a bad Rambam. Okay, this is what we call, again, the term is dfoos, which means published editions. And Kafich said that the published editions are so bad that in Yemen they would call a person who was like an imbecile a dfoos. Which I always like. I like how it works out in English that it's you could also say it's a pun on the word doofus, Okay, so let me read you what the published edition says. Okay, it says, Amru Chachamim Bris Krusa Shekol Hayageba Toraso bebeis hamidrash lo bimher hu mishakeach. Okay, so the standard edition say beis midrash. Now, so if you were reading the standard editions, you'd be like, oh, you wouldn't even think twice. You would just assume that it read naturally. Okay. Similarly, if you went to, and I'm not picking on them, but I am picking on them because this is Latoelis. If you go to Sefaria, okay, what does Sefaria say? Sefaria says, also has the wrong version. Okay. If you go to Torah, it has the right version. Okay. Where is it here? Oh, here we go. And then if you go to the original online good version, Mechon Mamre, then you'll also see, hold on. Mechon Mamre. I have a purpose to this, by the way, and I'm sorry for people who are only listening to this over audio because you're not going to get to see the coolness. It says, where are we here? Okay. Now, let's say you want to be thorough, okay, and question me. So what question can you have on me of the fact that I'm just quoting here and decreeing that this is the right version and the wrong version?
Yeah. The question is, how would you know?
How do I know, right? So I found something called, I just stumbled upon this, okay? It was a link at the bottom of the article, the Friedberg Jewish Manuscript Society, okay? You can create a free account, which I did. And look, so I just literally found this yesterday, so I have not explored any of the resources except my eye immediately went to Yad HaRambam. Okay, click on Yad HaRambam and watch this. So select a location. Sefer Hamada, Hilchos Torah, Perek Gimel, Yud Beis. I guess I remember my place. Display variant readings. Okay, and watch this. So here we have, okay, And you could sort it in and display it in different ways. I think it's just taking a little bit longer because Zoom takes up a lot of bandwidth. Okay, so we have here our halacha, and I'll try and make it bigger. Let me see if this will work. Yeah. Okay. So make it bigger. Okay. We have our halacha here. Nope. Here. Yeah. Okay. So here you have in Hebrew dfoos romi, resh mem, dfoos kushta, resh samach tes. So these are all names of different manuscripts. Okay. And what you could do is you could compare them. You know what? Just a second. Let me just go back to, yeah. Oh, did I accidentally click it? Oh yeah, sorry. Here we go. You could compare it side by side with the different editions, okay? And the cool thing is, let's say I want to look at the actual manuscript. So you click on the three dots and you go quick view, and you can see with your own eyes the manuscript and zoom in, and it's a very high quality. I think it'll render it in a second. Hold on. Yeah, so they've digitized. Hold on. It's too much. So they've digitized all these things, so you can actually like scrutinize and like look for yourself. Okay, but in a case like this, it's very easy because watch this. So we have in the, and I at some point I would like to learn what what all these manuscripts are and like what the difference is. Here we're going to look for the word. Oh, actually, what, you could do this even better. Synopsis by rows. Hold on. I think we could even go down to the very phrase itself. Loading. Okay. So in Divrei Torah miskayim b'mishum marapi alas molim. Okay, that was not our halacha. Hold on. Sorry. Like I said, I just discovered this yesterday, so I'm having a hard time navigating here. Why can I not go? Oh, I see. We're going to go to skip to our halacha. Actually, you know what? It's actually clear the other way. I'll go the other way. I'll show you. Hold on. Sorry about this. Okay, so what we're on the lookout for when we skim this is we're on the lookout for the phrase base Knesset and base Midrash and see which of the manuscripts say which. Okay, so we have here. Okay, so in the first one we have base Knesset. Second one, base Knesset. Third one, base Knesset. So here, when you see it in red, that means that it's illegible, right? So, and some of these are just fragments that we have, right? So base Knesset, base Knesset, base Knesset, base Knesset. And now here we're getting to modern editions. Okay, so the Mifal Mishneh Torah, that's the one that we're using. Okay, that's the Mishneh Torah Institute. Rambam Yad Shabsai Frankel, that's the Frankel edition. That's a very good edition. It says base Knesset. Rambam Meduyak. That's Rav Shelat. Rav Shelat is another Rambam expert, base Knesset. Rambam Adros Kafech. Okay, we know that Kafech is a good one, base Knesset. And look, the dfoos, the Vilna one, the base Midrash. So this is literally the only one out of all the manuscripts that says base Midrash, and this is the one that's published in Vilna. So the thing is like, you know, there are cases in the Rambam where among the authoritative manuscripts, then there are discrepancies, and then you really have to like make a judgment call about, you know, are the Yemenites correct or is the Oxford one correct? You know, but this one is clear. Only the Vilna one says base Midrash. And if you go back to Kafech's introduction to the Mishneh Torah, in fact, let me see if I have a copy. Hold on. We did this last year, but I just want to refresh our memories because I don't think anyone. I don't know. Actually, I don't know if anyone was here. Hold on. So this is someone translated the Kafech's intro to the Mishneh Torah into English. Oh yeah. Oh, so he says like this. Hold on. He says, wait, resume. I just saw that word. Yeah. So he says that, yeah, I'm going to start here. You know, the whole thing is really interesting to read. So this is Rav Kafech talking about his process here. He says, when in my youth, I studied the Mishneh Torah with my grandfather of blessed memory. Most people use printed books, each with his own edition, but my grandfather and several of the others had manuscripts which were several hundred years old, each scroll of a different age. Almost every halacha had annotations with variant readings. So they also had this version, obviously, but it was not digitized, right? They had like their own scrolls with different, you know, different readings. Or different editions. Some were passed over quickly because of their simplicity, and some aroused debate on the subject and its consequences, whether relating to a halacha that will not be applicable until the time of Mashiach or practical matters relating to the customs of our day. These debates were unending daily activities. So this is part of his culture of like going through and learning the Rambam and having all these different texts. The errors and the deficiencies of the printed text, the dfoos, were well known. So much so, this is what I was telling you about, that the printed books were used to characterize a mistaken person. When someone said something incorrect on some subject, they would respond, "You are like a dfoos," and point out the correction. These matters were inscribed on my heart, and I grew up with the assumption that there are two types of Maimonides texts in the world, that of the Yemenite manuscripts and that of the printed book. With study and investigation of the matter, I realized that there were very many differences of various kinds between the Yemenite manuscripts and the printed texts, although the differences were narrowed in the case of the older printed texts like the Roman edition, which was the first one in the column there. We have a tradition from our ancestors, and my grandfather wrote about it in one of his letters, that even during the life of Maimonides, the Jews of Yemen send expert copyists to Egypt to make copies of his manuscripts. And from time to time, they sent for updates and corrections to their books according to the most recent emendations and reconciliations of Maimonides, including the very latest. So they were always getting the updates during the Rambam's lifetime. It has already been shown in the publications of Professor Gotin and my own publications that there was an active two-way traffic between Yemen and Egypt at the time, but this is not the place to repeat those matters. This is not a matter of oral tradition, but there's a provable, reliable basis for it. Okay, fine, et cetera, et cetera. Okay, but then he says like this: the Jews of, this is the part I wanted to get to. The Jews of Yemen, both the Chachamim and the individuals, are a conservative group, and they would never have presumed to correct or amend a text that came into their hands, and certainly not in the works of Maimonides, who was respected by them and elevated in their eyes as a source of truth. As reported by Nachmanides, they would say in the Kaddish, meaning when they recited Kaddish, they would say, in our lifetime and in the life of our master and teacher Maimonides. Okay, then he goes on to praise him, and he says, it is therefore clear that every word and sentence that Maimonides wrote was treated as sacred by them, and they never amended any book based on reasoning, and no emendation or variant reading was suggested unless it appeared in the ancient manuscripts. This follows Maimonides himself, who wrote in chapter 15, Laws of the Lender and Borrower, quote, and I have already examined the variant texts, and I have in Egypt an excerpt of an old Gemara written on parchment in the manner in which they wrote over 500 years ago. So the Rambam, when he was learning Gemara, also cared about manuscripts and was looking for the most authentic ones. And again, obviously, he was much more limited than we are now. Therefore, there was preserved in their hands the original version as he wrote it according to his own last changes. This is proven correct by the surviving manuscripts of Maimonides, which conform to the Yemenite manuscripts. Also, the most ancient manuscripts from the rest of the world conform to a certain degree with the Yemenite manuscripts. But in the printed text, only a few of the changes which Maimonides himself inserted in his book appear, since only a few reached the early printers. Some of the emendations which Maimonides added, he wrote in the margins on the side, and the copyists did not pay attention to the correct placement and inserted them in the wrong place, causing much trouble and difficult questions in the understanding of Maimonides' words. I have noted these where they appear. They are few in number, but they have been added to the many other errors that were made. The editors tried to deduce changes. The Mishneh Torah was subject to severe editing by the printers and various editors who made emendations of style, language, the structure of sentences, and the division of the halakhot. Okay, and he says, I'll just read this. I have to go on my full rant. He did not number the Maimonides himself divided the book into short halakhot, as he indicated in his introduction, so that they would be easily studied and memorized. He did not number the halakhot, and the numbers were added by copyists. Similarly, in the case of the Guide to the Perplexed, Maimonides made the divisions, but the copyists inserted the numbering as noted in my edition. The Mishneh Torah was heavily edited to the extent that there is hardly any halacha that has not been amended. I know of no other book that was so severely amended, and the reason is clear. There was no other book that so widely and rapidly disseminated, widely and rapidly disseminated in many countries, and in particular, the lands of the East. This distribution and dissemination was in manuscript form so that everyone had a hand in it. As will be explained below, every third or fourth rate scholar who thought himself capable of doing so would presume to try his hand at making emendations and corrections according to his own understanding. Also, there were truly great scholars who expressed their opinion here and there as a result of a difficult issue raised by the words of Maimonides, and they suggested an alternative reading. They never even thought of changing the text of the book, but others after them did erase the words of Maimonides and insert the alternative reading proposed by the earlier scholars, thereby distorting the meaning and purpose of Maimonides. But the original works of Maimonides, words of Maimonides, if they are understood according to their plain meaning, are crystal clear. I don't know about that. And the emendations are nothing but mistakes, as I've noted in the text. End of rant. Not end of rant, end of Kafak's rant. So here we have in our halacha a very easy case. You can totally see how someone is reading this halacha, says to himself, oh, koya gave a Talmud of Beis HaKnesses. He can't mean Beis HaKnesses. He has to mean Beis Midrash because that's where you learn. And just switched it up, despite the fact that all the other old manuscripts from Rome, the ancient one, and from Kafech, from the Yemenite ones, all say Beis HaKnesses, So it's just like, this is a living example of how important it is to go to the manuscripts. And I have one more rant point, and then I'll take questions, is that one of the things that you'll find among Chachamim, like I'm talking about all Chachamim, in terms of Torah, is there are people who are not aware of different critical versions of texts, and therefore they don't use them. Okay. And you kind of can't blame them if they don't know that there are, better versions of text and they're just using the old ones. Like a lot of people, for example, I was learning Rashi with someone and they didn't know that there are good editions of Rashi and bad editions, And then there are people who know and care. So again, Al HaTorah was started by Rabbi Novetzky as a place to have critical editions online available for everyone. And then, and those people are the people to go to. And then there are people who know that there are critical editions and they still use the old editions. I cannot for the life of me understand why someone would do that if they truly knew that these were corrupt editions. And again, the fact that we have these old Rambams here is a travesty. And he's right, is that in every halacha there are differences. Some of them don't make a difference, and some of them make a world of difference. So I say to this, we need good editions of the Rambam. Thank God we have good editions here, but I think we should purge the old ones. End of rant. Yes, Yosef, what were you going to say or ask?
So a culture of bad copies, people know that people are bad copies, so they constantly make changes.
Yeah, exactly. It spreads like a plague. Yeah. And the same is true for Gemara, by the way, which is why in the good editions of the Gemara, like Oz V'Hadar, I think was one of the first ones that printed it with various, readings. I mean, look, you don't even go to the Bach and the Gra, the Haggadah Bach and Haggadah Gra. That's what they were doing. They were looking through old manuscripts of the Gemara that were available to them. And they say, I'm sure this is hyperbole, that the Gra would not make I don't know, he would consult 100 different manuscripts to make one change. I don't think there were 100 manuscripts that were available, but and then certainly the Mesivta, and I think modern editions of the Gemara have these reliable manuscripts now. But again, when once Torah Sheba'al Peh is committed to writing, so then it's subject to all of the mistakes that can occur with writing. And it's like Mark Twain said, be careful when reading health books, you might die of a misprint. Same thing is true in halakha. Yeah, Oren?
Just like halacha l'maisa, if I'm learning by myself, what edition should I be looking at?
You should look at either the Mechon Mamre one, which is based on the Yemenite manuscripts. The Al HaTorah one is based on the good manuscripts through Sefer Zmanim. I don't remember if they've changed after that. So the Mechon Mamre one is the most reliable one I know of in its entirety. Yeah.